Preview. Preview.
Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I mean, there's a theme in some of the videos, and it was kind of accidental that they all came out on the same day. But first off, Joe and I do a very sarcastic, Saga has gone woke, which we wanted to do something to memorialize the fact that Saga was coming back because it didn't seem like anybody else really was. So we wanted to do that, and it was tongue in cheek video. It's always funny to me, by the way, when people tell me, that's not funny. It's like, yeah, but if you look at the comments, like a lot of people thought it was funny. So what are you talking about? I agree, by the way, even doing that bit, I kept thinking like I should break character, but we often do. When we do the sarcastic bit, we break character in the middle. So this time I just wanted to go all in with it. It's all fine. The baffling thing was after we stopped recording, we started thinking about all the things that were happening when Saga went on hiatus the first time. And that's a hell of a list. Like, Jonathan Hickman was still a year away from launching in the X-Men, doing his run and ending in the time span that Saga was on hiatus. The entire Hickman run, in and out. Jason Aaron was just starting his Avengers run. Venditti's Hawkman was on issue number two. There's so many, and the one that's kind of heartbreaking, Stan Lee was alive. That one actually hurts a little bit in my heart. But anyway, one of the interesting things with that video was how many people came into the comments who clearly did not watch the video. Because I'm sorry, we're not, Joe is better than I am. We're not that good at sarcasm. Like you could tell we're being sarcastic. And it was, there were plenty of people in the comments like, I knew it. Yep, now they're going to go broke. It's like, okay, you clearly didn't watch the video. But it was an interesting test to see kind of, how many people are commenting on the video without actually watching it, especially since I put in the thing at the end and said, this was sarcasm. So I guess I should put that in the beginning. Then I followed that up with this question, which I love the question, and several people took shots at the questioner. But I love the question around racism in the comments on some of my videos and with fans in general. And what I loved about it was not that the question was exposing some kind of deep dark secret, but that it was blunt and to the point. And I'll tell you, there's so many times in life where things are obtuse, where people are they beat around the bush. They don't say exactly what they just have on their minds. And so I love it when somebody just lays out, here's something that's bothering me. Whether I agree or disagree, there's an honesty in it. Even if I don't agree with the question, even if I don't agree with the premise or anything else, there's an honesty in somebody just saying, here's my point of view. Here's what I've got on my mind. What do you think? I like that. I wish there was more of that. I think we'd have better understanding as a society, as a system, if more people just said what they meant. Or, we're unafraid. The problem is people are always afraid of kind of being perceived a certain way. But if we kind of let go of that hang up a little bit and just say what's on our mind, then we can cut through a lot of nonsense and a lot of guesswork. What kind of came clear, so it was an interesting question. I appreciated how a lot of people actually, some people had a gut reaction, but many people paused and actually I thought had pretty good responses to it. I think that certainly in all things, and you see it a lot in comics, the enemy is absolutes because they're easy to throw out, and in many cases we're punished for nuance. You're punished if you have an idea or a theory or an opinion that has some complexity to it. And so, and I think this has been something that Facebook and Twitter in particular have really steered us toward. This idea of I have to go all in. It's not just being extreme. It's removing all subtlety and going for the most over the top view of any opinion. Everyone who hates Captain Marvel is a misogynist. Everyone, all of them, 100%. That statement is absurd. And if you were talking to somebody in real life 10 years ago, everybody would recognize that as an absurd statement. I'd like to believe that people would recognize an absurd statement in person today, but I'm not sure that they would. I think that we've moved, our communication to a point where even in real life we're talking in absolutes. It's more absolute than extreme. Uh, when the comment that I think gets people into trouble is that somebody will say some of the criticism against, say, like Avita Ayala is racist. Well, I'm sure some is. I'm not just sure. Of course, some is. The but the nuance or the detail is it 90% of the criticism is racist, 50%, 20%, 1%? What is it exactly? And from at times Vita's perspective, if you look at their tweets, say, I'm trying. I understand a lot of you feel the pronoun thing is ridiculous, and I admit seeing it in the Twitter profile is ridiculous. I don't know. It just is silly to me. But again, my stance has always been: you tell me what you want me to call you, I'll do it. I don't find that warfare. I don't think that's pressure. I mean, look, if you want to call me, if you want me to call you, wizard, more power. It doesn't mean anything to me. I understand that other people may weaponize it. For me, I don't care. So I'm fine with it. Anyway, I explained this last time. I know some of you disagree, and that's your choice. I don't think anyone should be mandated to use pronouns in the correct way. I think you should be mandated, not to be a raving asshole. But I don't think using the wrong pronouns is being a raving asshole. But that's my perspective. Your mileage may vary. It's fine. But if you look at Vita's perspective, Vita seems to believe that much of the criticism against Vita is racism. I don't know the exact number, but you get kind of the feeling from their tweets that Vita thinks it's like 75%. If you're negative about Vita, 75% chance you're racist, and that's absurd. I mean, look, I think quantitative. No matter who you are, there's going to be people who are fans and unfans of your work, people who like it and dislike it. Vita is relatively new. The experience in writing comics does show on the page. The lack of experience shows. And, it's a very niche kind of writing in some cases. Yeah, people are going to dislike it. Doesn't make them racist. Now, is that number of people who dislike Vita's writing zero? Or, who are racist zero? Of course not. And why I can say of course not is, I've done a video. I've done comments. You can look at it. In fact, I appreciated the person in the comments who said this. They said, like, I went to the Daniel Cherry video that Perch made. I looked through all the comments. And there was one comment there that was clearly racist. I know what comment you're talking about. I can tell you that there was probably 4 or 5 in the held comments. The YouTube algorithm did hold some comments that, basically made some, I just very, when I say very racist statements, I'm not saying leans racist. I mean clearly racist. Like, I mean, I'm not going to repeat it here, but nobody here would argue that this was a racist statement. I'll put it this way. It was. I mean, there was somebody's comment in there that was like, "This is why we need to reinstitute slavery." All right, that's not an appropriate response to Daniel Cherry's job at DC, nor would it be to Vita's job. However, it's a lie to say, again, that that's 75% of the criticism. It's not. Yet this is the absolutism game we play. One side goes, all y'all critics are racist. Look at all the racists here. Or sometimes it doesn't give a number, but it heavily infers. Like, look at all y'all racists up in my mentions, attacking my book. Now, the reality is, all y'all, like, does that mean 100% of people? Does that mean 5%? Like, what are we supposed to think about that? Well, writing it that way is intentional to basically cast, a light. It basically casts an aspersion on everyone who's saying a negative thing as racist. It's a way of dismantling any criticism. It's a way of also scaring people not to give criticism. If you give criticism, you may get called a racist, and you don't want that. So that's it's a very effective tool. Unfortunately, it's a very cheap and dirty tool. I think it's very low class. to throw those kinds of statements around that have ambiguity or tend to infer that people who dislike you must be all racist or sexist or whatever it happens to be. It's the same thing. All you people who hate, Brie Larson in Captain Marvel hate women. You're all misogynists. Okay, are there some people who hate women who also correlate with hating Brie Larson and Captain Marvel? I'm sure there is. I will also say, though, I think that number is very small. Again, put a number on it. I don't know. 1%? Tiny. Tiny to the point of why are we talking about it? But by casting that criticism out like that, it certainly makes it appear like we're talking about every single person who complains. My question is, what good does that do? But then the other side comes back with, I have never seen anybody racist or misogynist. There's zero people. I've never seen it. Prove it to me. I've never seen it. Well, this is also a lie. I guarantee you, everyone who's listening to this right now has seen some gross shit. I'm sure you have. Whenever I do a video that focuses on anything relating to Israel or Jews, somebody will come around with a extremely anti-Semitic comment. But again, it's somebody meaning not plural. It's a person. And then sometimes there's 2 or 3 people. It's not 200 people. And I think that the trick with absolutes is a interesting deflection tactic. It's an interesting trick to basically kill off any ability of criticism, to basically render anyone, basically change the argument, rather than debate something on its merits, rather than have a subjective opinion where everybody could walk away completely happy by just saying, I like it, I don't like it, I guess we like different things, the end. Instead of having an adult civilized conversation, we're going to have well, you must be racist for not liking it. Now defend that you're not racist. And see what's happened? The entire argument has shifted. Now, you might ask at this point, what does this have to do with comics? Well, this is the discourse in comics right now. When we deal with absolutes, first of all, none of us are talking about comics. And you quickly find yourself arguing something completely different. And nobody wins in that scenario where somebody says, everyone who criticizes this is racist, and the other person says, I have never met a racist in my life. Okay, well, both of those statements are patently false. Everybody knows it. So now we're all going to have a conversation on, complete phoniness. And none of us are going to get anywhere. And that's where this winds up over and over and over again. That's where all this lands. So how do you beat this? How do you combat it? Well, for one, I think and this is easier said than done, when you find yourself in an absolutist argument, bail. Like if you start talking to somebody who's going to start throwing out these terms, just stop, end, get out, mute, block, whatever you happen to be, just the end. There is no winning in this scenario. And the person, by the way, who's throwing this out there knows this. And that's why if you don't respond right away, or if you don't take the bait and get involved, immediately the conversation is going to shift to you're a coward, or, oh, I guess, racists don't know how to defend themselves. They're going to double down on whatever insult they gave you. They're going to say, you're illiterate, so you must not have an answer. They're basically going to go for cheap shots. In the moment, it's going to really feel like you need to respond and you need to jump into this fight. If you go back and you look at this thread or wherever this conversation is taking place, if you just look at it a day later or 2 days later, you will notice the person sounds absolutely unhinged and absurd. The getting out of the moment, you realize there's no way you would want to get into that argument. The argument is absolutely stupid. That's the only solution, is to stop. There is not a victory where you can give exactly the right insult or exactly the right comeback to put an end to all this. There is no way. And as long as we keep fighting in the absolute terms, nobody's going to win, because there is no winnable ground in that scenario. There is no ground that says every critic is racist or there are no racists in the world. There's nothing. And don't be baited by people who will say, "Oh, you're just taking a middle position." Again, these are dicks who say this. These are people who really want to fight you on absolute terms because they have no high ground to speak of. They have got no facts. All they have are absolutes. So their way of saying, "Oh, you're just one of those middle of the road people," that's a way of just trying to bait you back into the fight. But the reality is, yeah, that middle of the road position, that's 98% of humanity. God, I hope it's that high, but that's the vast majority of people. And those are the people who do not have mental problems. The people who deal in absolutes absolutely have mental problems. And there's plenty of that in comics, sadly. So, again, don't be baited into things. This is not a Biff McFly moment where you've got to somehow stand up for, your girl. By the way, I have this theory. As long as I've wandered into Back to the Future briefly, and kudos to you if you're still listening to this. So comment on this in the comments. I have this theory that if you were, watching Back to the Future in a theater, if it's hitting you as a movie that really was part of your childhood, did Back to the Future normalize incest to some extent? Did it? Because I've talked to people who are in that generation, to be clear, not me, who's like, what's really the problem? And my theory is, I mean, the movie is basically, through craziness, had Marty's mom coming on to him. And, I mean, Leah Thompson was smoking hot back in that time. So, I mean, you'd be thinking like, well, I mean, he should just go for it. And you're like, but no, that's her son. He should definitely not go for it. But I have this theory that moment gave a whole generation this past to like open up to contemplate this. I see, this is my crazy idea. That's why you come to the channel. Anyway, there's my little bit for the day. I like doing videos that bring up direct questions like that. I think it's important. I think that they're worth talking about. I think they're uncomfortable for people, and I think they're easy to be attacked, but it's worth doing it. I think we gain understanding of where we all stand in those moments. So I think they're good. So if you have those uncomfortable questions, please do send them in. Like I promised the person, and I hopefully I delivered it. I'll answer it honestly and fairly, regardless of what I think. I will answer it on the level every time. So it's fun to do. It gets people talking, and I did appreciate that part of it. Anyway, thanks for listening.